All right, it's coming up. All right, we are here, folks. I'd like to say it's good to be back here again, back on Stack Up Twitch streaming, providing you your services here about mental health awareness. And of course, we have a new co host here. I'll give you a second for you to introduce yourself, Hannah. My name is Matt Bergendahl. I am a licensed counselor, and I have been trying to find innovative ways to bring out different messages of mental health to the wide variety of audiences that we have here. And Twitch seems to be the best way to do it, one of the best ways to do it. And so I'm really pleased to get this back up and running. For those of you who have been following us in the past, last year I was fighting and kicking the crap out of cancer, and thankfully it is dead. It is gone. And so it has just been, I'm very pleased to be back here again in this chair. So it is it for me in a nutshell. I'm going to kick this off to Hannah and let her introduce herself, and have at it. It's all you, Hannah. Go for it.
Awesome. So my name is Hannah Siller. I have a master's degree in counseling with a emphasis in trauma and crisis. So that was kind of my focus. Since graduating, though, I decided, you know what, I really kind of want another degree, and I want to add a nice little title to the end of my name. So I decided to start my doctorate in psychology, so PsyD. So while I'm doing that, I'm working on some pretty awesome projects, including this amazing stream, as well as I am a life coach as well and a public speaker. I have kind of my own little business called Serene Life Consulting. I do workshops and public speaking in the San Diego area, as well as online life coaching. So I'm kind of excited to do this. This is one of my first times being on stream, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so before we get started and jump into the real fun stuff, of course, we've got to talk a little bit about the disclaimer. This is not intended to be counseling services. This is purely just psychoeducational in nature. We always welcome anyone to jump in with your questions or your input on the subject matter. If you are in need of counseling, though, please feel free to reach out. We have the stop staff who are available 24/7, who will be able to assist you and maybe put you in or plug you into the right services that you need. But we just wanted to make sure and put that out there. We always welcome everybody to talk about what's going on, how whatever the topic relates to them. But of course, we cannot guarantee any kind of privacy or confidentiality because, of course, this is Twitch. It's an open forum for everybody, and anybody can see it. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what we're covering. This is really exciting. This is like, one of the building blocks of my, my counseling work that I do is video games or gaming, actually. Gaming, because let's face it, gaming covers a lot of different areas. It's not just video games. We got tabletop games. We've got, card games, all that kind of stuff. Everything falls under games. And I've always been interested since I started doing my internship, how video games or gaming can be used as a therapeutic tool, either as a tool or an intervention or just a way to get the work out there and bring folks in. That's always been my passion, and we're going to get into that a little bit further. So what we're going to be covering is just games in general, how it helps you out or how it can help people out in their mental health. And then we're going to talk specifically, I'm going to specifically talk about video games. And, there's a lot of really cool research that's been done out there, in terms of helping people out, how it helps with people with soldiers and veterans with PTSD. So we're going to cover all that stuff, and then Hannah, she's going to go ahead and jump in. And why don't you tell me what are you going to talk about for today's stream?
We're talking about tabletop gaming, so this is going to include everything under that heading of Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Shadowrun, anything in that area that gets people role playing and using kind of creativity, creating a character and going on adventures together. So we're going to be doing a lot of that, as well as talking about some of the mental health benefits of that. There's actually a lot of research happening right now that's just starting to come out about ways of actually using mediums like Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop games in order to conduct therapy with a variety of different demographics and different disorders.
Yeah.
And even just in our own lives, how it can kind of help us out. So I'll be covering all of that, as well as talking about a few of the really amazing people in the community who are doing some of this research and getting some of this information out there for us to be able to use.
Awesome. Very awesome. Looking forward to hearing more about it too. So let's go ahead and get started then. It's interesting because, video games has recently been getting a lot of negative press. Well, let's face it, for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, video games itself has been getting a lot of bad rap. They're saying that it is causing our youth to be desensitized to violence. It makes them more prone to violent behaviors and just a lot of negativity and not a lot of focus on what the benefits are of it. And the interesting thing is that there's a lot of research that's been done, and then it doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort to see it on there. But of course, sometimes it's the negative press that gets the most attention. So, when we think about that, when the DSM, the diagnostics manual that we use for diagnosing people, mainly for insurance purposes, but it's also, it's like the cornerstone of the mental health profession. When they came out with the gaming disorder, our video game disorder, it really just kind of created an avalanche of just negativity. So today's focus for me is talking about the benefits of video games and what it can do for you. There's a lot of back and forth going on right now as far as, is this really a gaming addiction? Is it really more like this is just the reaction or a person does to help? Let's say, for example, they have a social anxiety. Well, they play a lot of video games to help with that anxiety. So is it really the gaming addiction, or is it just a person trying to find a way to soothe that anxiety or something like that? So there's a lot of back and forth still going on about that. But again, today we're going to be focusing on the positive aspects of it. And we're going to jump right into it. One of my favorite areas is talking about virtual reality. Okay, so in the last couple of years, virtual reality has just, exploded into the mainstream area. A lot of folks buying, the Oculus sets and all the various types of VR technology that's out there. But it's been around for a long time. I remember the VA was talking about using virtual reality for PTSD for the veterans as a way to help them with whatever that situation that caused it. For example, they'll take a veteran, they'll give them like it's a plastic M4 or carbine, whatever, some kind of a plastic weapon to help simulate it, and then they will produce the entire scenario that the trigger that gave them that PTSD. So let's say, for example, it was going through a market and their convoy got ambushed. So what they would do with this virtual reality is they would program something very specific to that, so that veteran will literally go in through that marketplace and basically relive the experience until it becomes less potent. All right, and what they kind of consider that like a flooding type of therapy, but it's also paired up with a regular traditional therapy like exposure therapy. So it's really cool. And the really neat thing is that, again, this was going on since like 2006 or 7. And with, PCs and technology, because it's become so much more advanced, the stuff is becoming even more realistic, which is awesome. A lot more studies are going on out there. I think University of UC, I don't know. There's a university down south in Southern California.
One of them.
One of them. There's so darn many of them. Yeah, that has they have a new program that's going on, and I'm doing some reading up on, and I'm actually reached out to them because I wouldn't mind seeing if StackUp could get involved with it. I think that would be pretty cool. What is your experiences with virtual reality? Have you tried it out yet?
Oh yeah, we actually I got my husband the Oculus last year for
Nice.
Christmas, and he loves it. He thinks it's absolutely the most amazing thing. Me, I have a harder time using it. I have a little bit more motion sickness. He's
Yes.
got this game that's I wish I could remember which one off the top of my head, but it's like a flight simulation in space.
Oh, cool.
And the way that you turn, though, you kind of like do this when you turn, so it has
Uh,
this really weird effect that just
mhm.
kills me. But what's interesting is that one of the opening rooms that you get is a very tranquil type of setting. It has like bonsai trees and little waterfalls and stuff like that. And putting that on and actually just immersing yourself, I felt instantly relaxed. I felt like I could really calm down and
Right
just
on.
be in this space. And it actually was really beneficial, I thought, for a meditation, because if you're
Oh,
maybe in this city, let's say that you live in some place that's loud and downtown, it's really hard to focus out and be able to meditate or to do any sort of those relaxation techniques that sometimes we really need to do for self-care.
sure.
So I think that something like that could even be applicable. I could see that even things like that being brought into a therapy
Wow,
session.
I
So
didn't even think about that. That is
yeah,
great. I mean, this,
I wasn't thinking about it till you said it.
yeah. I mean, this kind of just popped up. Yeah, if you can just, you might not be able to get out to the woods, but bring the woods to you. And
Yeah.
get out there and get the serenity. That is a cool idea. I bet you that's going to come up. Now someone's watching this and they're like, I'm going to develop this and put it out there. I mean, I use
I'm starting to think about using it today.
Yeah, there you go. I used my son has a VR headset, and I remember when I left the bone marrow unit to the hotel because we had to stay there for a few months. He had it set up, and the first game I played was Skyrim. Had to be Skyrim because I loved playing that game when it first came out. I still play it every once in a while. But I get out, I'm sitting there with the controllers, I got the headset, and my whole body's just doing this because, it's like I'm all wobbly because it's like I'm like too shaky. It's just like I got, like you, motion sickness. I'm like, I have to sit down and play it. But it was fun. I mean, I can see how exciting it could be, but more importantly, um, back to the mental health part, I can see why it could be a benefit to someone who's been out there in any kind of traumatic situation, who's trying to process this and help alleviate the PTSD that's going on. So I thought that was really cool, and it's still being, like I said, it's an ongoing process. So I'm going to take a quick break for a second. Anybody out there who's got any thoughts about virtual reality or any of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, please jump in there. Let's get a conversation going. This is an exciting way of bridging mental health and video gaming community, or the gaming community as a whole. So please, if you got let's get your 2 cents in there. So moving on. Okay, so Hannah, did you play Tetris as a kid when you were younger?
Uh, kind of. I'm really bad at it. I wish my mother-in-law, she's phenomenal. She's like the Tetris master. She
Mm,
plays constantly and it's actually really impressive. But me, I try, I give it the good old college try, but
sure.
never been very good at it.
I remember playing Tetris on the old Game Boy. I'm dating myself here. I I never, I played it. I didn't really put a tremendous amount of like, oh my god, this game is so awesome. I can play this for hours and hours. I just like, this is cool, and kind of moved on to something else. But here's something that's really crazy. This game that came out in the 80s is resurfacing as far as being a therapeutic tool. So we're going to talk about it a little bit about what's going on with this game Tetris. We got two really cool studies that have gone on in the past few years. The very first one, it was kind of a very simple study. The thought is if we were to give the participants the opportunity to play Tetris after seeing a very traumatic video or movie. Actually, it was a movie. And then we had the other group of audience who didn't have the game to play. How easy would it be for the group playing Tetris to not re-experience some of those memories? And I'm going to get into technical stuff in a little bit. So basically, the participants, they all watched the same videos. It was like a lot of scary, traumatic movies and stuff like that. Scary movies, and the one sample group, they were given the Game Boy, and they were said, okay, play Tetris immediately within after watching this video, and let's see what happens. And the other group, of course, they didn't have access to it, and this is the cool part. Okay, so the group that was playing the Tetris had less flashbacks of the movie, of the scary videos and movies that they're watching, compared to those who didn't. And in a sense, it interrupted the processing of short-term to long-term memory. And so they had less traumatic experiences from that. So how does that relate to PTSD? It's really quite simple. And this is going to kind of move into the next study with the ER. Basically, they were at this local ER. They were giving these people who survived a horrific vehicular accident, and they gave them this. Within the first 6 hours of them being treated and admitted, they were playing this game, and what they think is that it interrupted memory consolidation. So that's basically what Tetris did. And I suppose, you can say, well, you can do that with just about any game, but that's actually not quite accurate. They actually intentionally picked Tetris for a reason. So I was just like, wow, holy crap. An old school video game is now providing a possible treatment for preventing PTSD. I said, how amazing is that? Well, Hannah, what are your thoughts on that?
That's incredible. I'm trying to. I want to read that study. I kind of wish I would have gotten that from you earlier because I want to look at that. That's really interesting. I wonder how it would affect someone studying though if you're playing Tetris in the middle of trying to study for exams.
Oh, maybe. You know what? You think of here. Here is the actual. I'm going to put this in the general chat. Give me 1 second, in case anybody else, including you, of course, would like to view it. I got links, lots of links.
So many links.
Mm-hmm. And this is the link for the emergency room study that they did. Let me get that out there.
Yeah, that's incredible. I would love to see something like that in action.
Yes.
And interesting. I wonder if it would help me be able to watch scary movies. I am such
a pansy. Well, like, if I suppose, maybe we'll give it a shot. Do you usually get like nightmares when you would watch these movies?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, when I was a kid, I had to watch, I think it was like House on Haunted Hill,
Oh,
something, a scary movie,
mm-hmm.
and or The Haunting. I don't remember which one it was. It was something with a haunting in it.
Yeah.
And my cousin literally had to sleep outside my door for about 3 days because I was just absolutely, I
Wow.
mean, I'm like 17.
Oh.
So, I mean, I'm not even a kid. And I was just, it really upset me. I had a really hard time with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I can barely even handle the month of October.
Oh.
So,
Well,
I like to, maybe during that month I'll start picking up Tetris and see what happens.
there you go. Give it a shot. And here's the last thing about Tetris, and it's really, really cool. Uh, TBI. Obviously, TBI has become a very big thing for veterans because, IEDs, accidents, but, it's not just veterans. People who are in sports, can experience TBIs. People who are in vehicle accidents, industrial accidents, TBI is a big deal. And it's one of those invisible wound things that we talk about quite often, very, very similar to PTSD. Well, this other study, this more came from, let's see, actually I don't have that link. Anyhow, sorry, this other one was talking about how Tetris, if played once a day for at least an hour, it basically showed signs of thickening the cerebral cortex, which is basically the efficiency part of the brain. So they were using it for TBI. So this is an
So
opportunity.
really quick, TBI, traumatic brain injury, for those who don't know what that is.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, TBI, traumatic brain injury. Very good. Thank you. Thank you
Making
for.
sure that people out
Yeah.
there, they know what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I assume too much sometimes, and I get forgetful. But again, Tetris. Holy crap! Here we go. It's doing so much more for than just playing a simple game. It really does have the ability to impact directly the direct benefit of video games. We're seeing it in Tetris. We're seeing it in other types of games. And then we're not even talking yet about the indirect benefits of playing these video games. And that's what we're going to cover next. Hannah, so far, what are your thoughts about this? I mean, it's an interesting way to look at how beneficial they can be.
See, I was never allowed to play video games growing up because I
Oh.
was in one of those families where video games are evil. They're gonna rot your brain. That was kind of a lot of the theory. I had another cousin. My cousins really took care of me.
Yeah.
I had another cousin who would hide his Game Boy under my grandma's bed,
Hmm.
and I would go and play it. And the only thing I had access to was Super Mario,
Oh,
and
good game.
that was it. So my experience with video games from other than that, up until I was married
Hmm.
and started to play World of Warcraft,
Ooh,
and
yeah.
started to do that. That's high, yeah, World of Warcraft. So you love those role playing type stuff, those
Yeah.
interactive social games. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of experience, so now I'm kind of wishing I had a little bit more experience with them growing up.
Hmm. Hmm. For me, it was really strange. I mean, my introduction to video games started with the original Nintendo. For whatever reason, my grandma, she's like, here, here's a Christmas gift for you, a Nintendo system with the gun, Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and it made my entire siblings, or my sister and my cousins, they were so jealous because they got like clothes and stuff like that, and here I got this huge Nintendo box set, and they're like, okay. But that's how I started playing playing video games. I mean, I lived in I lived in these games for a little while. For like in the summertime, I got nothing else to do. If friends aren't doing anything, I'm sitting there playing a video game. The original Final Fantasy, Mario Brothers 1, Mario Brothers 2, all that other kind of stuff. And it just, as the games grew and the consoles changed, and like with my own age, so did my tastes and stuff like that. But some of the original ideas never really change. I mean, I still play Final Fantasy. I still enjoy playing role playing games and like MMOs and stuff like that. It just the core of it never really changed. And
Mm.
so the only thing that's really the biggest difference is that I don't play in a console. I play on a PC. That's the only way I do it
Mm.
now, with the exception of games like Rock Band. You know, when I play Rock Band, obviously that's going to be on the Xbox. You play it?
Yes.
You play Rock Band?
Oh man, I love Guitar Hero and Rock Band. I married a gamer, so
Yeah.
we have an NES. So he still gets to play those old classic games with the console.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that for him. So I've gotten to watch all of those games. I've gotten to watch all the Final Fantasies and Zelda and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know why. I really love Rock Band.
Rock Band
I
is
just
awesome.
I'm really good at a few songs, and other I'm just really bad at. So no, I love music, so it's a game after my own heart.
Yes, absolutely. And I got like over 300 songs in my library. We were just Rock Band junkies in my family.
Love it. I need to come visit now.
Yeah, there you go. And so now that we're kind of talking about the other side of video games, I kind of want to change focus for a little bit and talk about the indirect benefits of video games. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm going to talk about a game that's it gets a little bit of a bad rap, and I'm going to talk about Fortnite. Now, I've tried Fortnite. I've tried the battle royale of Fortnite. I suck at it. I do not have the quick reflexes like I used to. So, I'll last for maybe a minute if I'm lucky. My youngest son, he plays Fortnite, and I just watch him. His hands are just dancing all over the place, and I'm like, I'm not that quick. So anyhow, a lot of the younger generations are playing this game. A lot of people are playing the game. It's a very popular game. And was something that's been really interesting that I came across when I was doing my research was that this lady has this blog where I'm going to show you the link. She talks about how Fortnite helped her son make new friends when they moved into a new area. The kid was like really nervous. He's like, I got to start all over again, make all sorts of new friends. And so they found this this Facebook, and they started talking about the parents were connecting each other and talking about the games that they enjoy playing, and that ended up coming up. And so this kid was able to use Fortnite as a way to connect to other people, other kids of his age, and actually form a group where they had times where they're coming over and playing, where they were going out there and not just playing the video game, but going out there bike riding, going out there, hanging out. So it became a really beneficial tool for this family and for this mom when trying to find new social connections. The next thing about that video game as well, now that we're talking about it, the CDC. The CDC was talking to me about this recent thing that came out. Was this kid was kind of getting bullied at school. I'm not, and I don't recall, what the kid looked like, but he was getting bullied. And let's face it, it happens quite often out there. He started playing Fortnite with this group of kids who are just a little bit older than him, but it turned out that those kids were actually in the same school. And so they became friends online before they became friends, in real life. And so it turns out that this older group of kids took this younger kid under their wing and protected him. They took care of him, and they really formed a strong bond and friendship. So it was just kind of like this game, again, the indirect benefit of it was, bringing people together. And so it was just really cool. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. Well, first off, shout out to those kids that took him under their
Yeah.
wing and helped him out. That's kind of awesome. I love to see things like that, especially when you're dealing with bullying. It's way too prevalent. I used to work at a
Mm-hmm.
high school, so I saw it daily, and would have to try to intervene where I could and educate where I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But oh yeah, like I mentioned World of Warcraft. I actually made a bunch of friends from that. I was really shy, and I would never talk online and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when I started playing World of Warcraft, I mean, I'm going to date myself here, but this is back in, vanilla. So this is like 40
Sure.
people having to raid, molten
Yeah.
core.
Oh yeah.
This is the hardcore stuff. So you got 40 people you're trying to control in a group.
Mm-hmm.
It's bound that you're going to start to click with some people. And
Yep.
a lot of the people that I'm friends with today, years later,
Mm-hmm.
from beta when I started playing, they're still my friends now, and they still call me Root. My name was I am Root.
Mm-hmm.
So they still call me Root. I still call, everyone calls my husband Belsa still. My uncle used to play with us. He was our healer. And so we still call him Zan, and my own uncle calls me Root, which is kind of awesome. But yeah, all these people I'm still friends with, and we would, do New Year's together, and they'll come to my birthday and
Nice.
my graduation party and things like that. And I think that people really underestimate what these games can do when you
Mm-hmm.
start to get to know each other and you start to
Yes.
become actual friends. I mean, they say, oh, it's just online friend. They're not your real friend. Well,
Right.
I've had, not real friends, online friends, who have been there for me through a lot of
Mm-hmm.
really tough times. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's something that is just so underestimated.
Oh, absolutely. And I've had some of these friends actually come out. Like one of my WoW buddies. I mean, we raided together, we quested together, leveled tunes together, and he's out there in New Jersey. My friend Eric, and he came out to visit. He actually flew out, and we hung out for a week. I showed him. This was when I was living in South Dakota. We went out there and did the tourist thing. We hung out. I actually put him to work because we just moved into a house, and so he was helping me hang up trim. Which is kind of, I guess it was kind of messed up for me to do, but he didn't mind doing it. But it was just like, these are not fake friends. These are not, they count because I can reach out to them and I can talk to them. And if I have an issue that's going on, and this is the core of it, I know they're friends because I can reach out to them if I've got something going on, and we can talk, either type chat or video chat or voice chat. It didn't matter. That's a social support, and that is something that I consider to be a very valuable thing. How many I don't know how you can not consider that or count that, because it's very important. When I was a counselor at the vet center, a lot of my clients, they're all veterans. I would always ask them and assess, what is your social support like? And they're like, well, I don't really have any friends here that I can hang out with, but I still do have people I can reach out and talk to through my phone, through texting, through Facebook. I'm like, well, that's good. I said, are these people folks that you can actually talk to about your issues? And most of the time they say yes, and so that counts. It's better than saying I'm completely isolated and I've got nobody to talk to. And so let's kind of go back and look at WoW again. Something that's really, really interesting is that WoW has been World of Warcraft has been used for a lot of different studies. And including, I think, the Center of Disease, CDC, about how fast the plagues could. I can't remember what it was. There was some kind of bug that could be that they used from one of the. It was like a AOE. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like an AOE damage bug that got on one of the bosses, and they brought it into Stormwind, and
There's a lot.
yeah. Well, I remember they were they were studying that because they wanted to see how quickly this virus would spread. But anyhow, WoW has been the subject of several studies, and they kind of talk about how these, and they call them avatars, how they are a reflection of the person who's playing the game. Why did that person choose this? Why did that person choose this physical feature? It's like, where did this all play in as far as this person's personality? So it's really kind of cool. And then, of course, there's other games. There's, Fallout. A lot of people have played Fallout, and what's really interesting about that game is that, you make the decisions to be, either good or not so good. And so that in itself is kind of an exploration of, am I acting out to things I couldn't do in real life, or I wouldn't do in real life in this video game? Or is this who I really am as a person? And, and this character that I'm playing in Fallout, is a more of an accurate representation of who I am. So again, the mental health component is everywhere. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I thought it was hilarious you brought up how we choose our characters. I chose my mage in World of Warcraft because it could sheep things, and I'm sitting there sheeping it. I'm going, it's a sheep, but it's a cow, but it's a sheep,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a cow. Like I just absolutely got a kick out of that, and I think that I don't know how that sums up my personality, but I think it really does say a lot about me.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so sorry, but then it also makes me think of things like Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
I mean, you pick a character and you start to make these. Anyone who hasn't played it, you start to make these decisions of that lean more dark side or light side, and
Mm-hmm.
there's penalties and benefits based on which way you go, and it really kind of tests you about what you're, I really want to see this happen, and can I do that? And
Yeah.
I'd be playing a character and I'd be like, well, I really want to go dark side. But
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, I just can't. I have to choose it. I can't be that mean. It's a kid. Come on now. Or, oh, they're in love. They should be able to be together.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think it can show a lot. There's a lot of decision making in some of these games that really are reflections of us.
Yes, absolutely. And it's cool because like a game like going back to Fallout, and that game it actually monitors and kind of gives you a rating as far as what your personality is like. Are you the next messiah of the wastelands, or are you just like evil incarnate here and you're back and you're just pure chaos, and then of course that it changes the interactions that you have with the NPCs, the non playable characters in the game. So it really does have a consequences to the choices that you make, which is of course just like how it is in real life. So yeah, very very interesting component of that. So we're gonna move on a little bit to another indirect benefit, and this is something that's pretty near and dear to me. It was something that I had started thinking about during my internship. I learned a lot, and one of the things that I learned was that a lot of the veteran population, especially the younger generation, the Iraqi veterans, the Afghanistan veterans, they were very socially disconnected. Even for an online presence, they're like, "Well, I play video games," and they're playing by themselves. They're not really playing with anyone. Hey man, what's up? I appreciate the shout out, brother. This guy here, we were in security forces together. I won't embarrass him too much, but I appreciate you coming and hanging out. Um, when I was doing this internship, I saw just a lot of disconnection, and I wanted to figure out a way to bring people together, bring the veterans together, bring them into the vet center, get them plugged into services if they want to, but at least get them engaged with one another. And so I came up with the LAN events. And what I'm going to do is quickly, while I'm talking, I'm going to switch over so people can see some photos that I took. So this project of mine has been going on for almost 3 years. And so I'm really, really proud of it. The LAN events is basically I put together at the North Bay Vet Center with the help of my friend Robert and stack lead Anthony, this project where we're getting together like 6 or 7 Xboxes, network them up, find a game that we can all play together. Some kind of that one's just turned upside down wrong. And basically get everybody together and playing video games and stuffing your faces with pizza from 7:30 or from 7 o'clock to 10:30 at night. It's just been a really interesting. Okay, hold on. We got someone here to ban.
Yeah, thanks. It happens. Hey, that's what happens when you're live.
Yep. I think I'm gonna see if I can delete that too.
Don't come on and be a jerk, people.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Well, while while you're doing that, I'll just
Yeah, go
land
ahead.
centers. Land centers are awesome. My husband used to do a land center. I love land parties. They're amazing. You can interact with people. You can have fun. You can bond over a joint love of gaming. My husband, he runs little land parties for his work,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing. We all get together, and it's people from work, and we're on there playing Overwatch, and they're all carrying me because I am absolutely horrible. I try.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we got. I mean, you can do everything. You can do LAN parties with if even video games, like hooking up some consoles. That can be, something you can do and have fun with.
Right.
So,
Well,
hey, Rachel, love you. Thank you.
let's see. All right. So I got them. I'm not too hip on. I thought I deleted it. Well, they've been blocked. They've been blocked.
They've
Eh,
been blocked.
They've been blocked. Okay, so let's get back to it. The LAN events, it's still going on. In May of this year, it'll be 3 years that this program has been up and running, and it's just really really cool. I wish hopefully Anthony will see this video, because what it did is that it was bringing these veterans together who didn't know anybody, that really didn't have any really close social connections, and it brought Stack Up in there, and they all came into the vet center, and they were just playing games, and it just grew from there. These people became their own social network, their own social support. When one veteran was having a hard day, they would reach out to the other fellow veterans who were there, and it just grew. It was beautiful, and it was always cool to see a new person coming in who hasn't been to one of them, and how quickly they were accepted into the group. I'm getting chills right now talking about it, and so it was just a great positive place to be, and everybody enjoyed it. We always had different things to do. One time, like for Veterans Day, we went out to Applebee's, got our free meal, of course, and then we went back and played Battlefield. Or one time we went out to the Microsoft store, as you can see in some of these pictures, or Rock Band night. We had a Rock Band night for the Christmas time. So it was just really fun to do, and I'm happy that it's still going on. Now here's the cool thing, and I might be shooting myself in the foot, but I'm going to be pushing this like a madman. I am trying to get the VA to put this on a national scale. Okay, yes.
I support this.
Thank you. This thing has actually been proven to save lives. I won't go in the details of it because I want to protect that person's identity, but I know that this has saved lives. And the VA is trying to scratch their heads and saying, how can we, what can we do to combat the 22 a day? Well, here's an idea. So, we already have this up and running, and I would love to see the VA to try to push this to a national level, where every local stack can get together with a vet center and get this going. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm reading what McCrae is saying here. They don't have this in your area. I would love to put this in your area. I mean, I would love to see this in every area where there is a stack, and get things rolling. It would just be awesome. And it's sad to say, as the VA, as it always seems to be one step behind the curveball, and sometimes it's the bureaucracy, and I can get on a huge soapbox about all of it. There are people out there inside the VA who are pushing this, so there's a lot of good and a lot of potential there. So hopefully we can make this happen. I kind of sound like I'm a broken record here, but it's just because I'm passionate about it. I would love to see this be a benefit for any veteran who wants to be a part of it, and not just at the North Bay Vet Center. So that's kind of it for me as far as talking about the indirect benefits of video games. I like to see how it just kind of builds this relationships. And again, video games, although it's been getting such a bad rap, here we have these examples of how it's been helping people out, and how it's been benefiting directly, indirectly. Directly, like with games like Tetris. Indirectly, games like Fortnite, and getting people together. I
I
don't
think
think
there's a
that.
lot of hope there too. I think that the more that, I'm seeing these people say that it's not around us, we don't have it. I think that as it starts to gain support, it's going to start to get noticed.
Yes.
And streams like this, as people like our audience are starting to say, "Hey, we want this. This is something that I think we should use and that we need." And as the research starts to come out, I think we're going to see a change in the tide. I think we're going to start to see a shift more towards community building and really recognizing the way that things that people are actually interested in
Mm-hmm.
can impact and help their mental health state. So
Absolutely.
just
It,
keep saying it,
yep.
keep trying.
Keep pushing.
Push it.
Yeah.
Yeah, push it.
And McCrae, if you don't think there's a stack around your area, and if you're interested, you can always stand one up. Sign up for it, and Stack Up will get you plugged into the resources. They'll train you how to be a stack lead, and maybe get your own group going, and then you can be the trailblazer in your local community to bring veterans in and stack up and at your local vet center, and kick that thing off. We will be there to support you, and I will be there to support you. Again, this has been my project for several years now. In fact, I'm going to be presenting and talking about it at PAX East. I'm going to be talking about it at the American Association of Suicidology at the conference that's coming up in April. This is good stuff, and I love seeing people who are willing to put themselves out there and get the work done. So I've been rambling now for a while, and I've been talking about video games. So now we're going to change gears, and we're going to talk about the other sides and other components of gaming. And Hannah, go for it and take off. What do you got?
Can we switch the pictures back to the video feed?
Yes, it's switching right now. Oop.
Cool. So tabletop gaming. So what tabletop gaming is, I think that people kind of it's just like video games. It gets a bad rap. People don't really understand it. It's a nerd thing. It's something that just you see the people like to describe it as the basement dwellers, or just a lot of negative connotations you see in movies and in TV shows about it just being all of these nerds getting together. But tabletop gaming is amazing. So tabletop gaming includes things like Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder. There's even sci-fi renditions such as Shadowrun, or I believe there's Star Wars. There's Star Wars set tabletop gaming. I actually got my start in tabletop gaming with Vampire the Masquerade when I was in high school, and that's, as you can guess, about vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Now that was a weird situation for me because it was in high school. I was the only girl in the group. I didn't really understand a lot of it. Things were a little weird, and I didn't really understand kind of what the game was about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stepped back a little bit, not really sure. I liked it, but I wasn't really sure there was other groups out there where to go with this. And so it wasn't until I was actually in my 20s and I was married that I actually started doing it more on a regular basis and really kind of getting into it.
Cool.
And I started doing Pathfinder Society, and Dungeons and Dragons also has what's called Adventure League. But what it is it's more organized place, so you can go on their websites, whether it's Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Other ones may also have this. I'm not positive. I just know about these two. There's so many out there. It would take hours to describe all of them. And you can actually go online and you can find where groups are being held. They do have a little bit more, again, guidelines because you're in society, so they ask you to track your stuff a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, it just means you can go and you can find a table to play at, and you can go and be part of this community.
Cool.
And so what I found, I'm going to talk more about a little bit my personal experience.
Sure.
In tabletop gaming is that I was very shy. I know, believe it or not, I was shy. Incredibly shy. I mean, the girl who would not even raise her hand in class.
Mm-hmm.
So shy. And going in there, and then there's these people that some of them are using voices, and, there's one person that actually, has a cape on because that's what their character wears.
Oh, cool.
And I'm just sitting here going, my character's name is Hannah, because I couldn't think of anything.
Oh.
I think my actually my first character's name was Kaya, which is the nickname of my little sister, because
Oh.
I couldn't think of anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't do voices. I wasn't into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting and having this community, I started to build a lot of confidence.
Cool.
I started to reduce a lot of anxiety. I would have a lot of anxiety going out and being in large crowds
Mm-hmm.
and going to these big conventions and stuff like that. No way, I would never go to things like a gaming convention because there'd be so many people.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden, by playing Pathfinder in society, I started going to conventions. I started being able to be around a lot of people, meeting new people that I obviously had never met before, and talking to them both in character and out of character. I started to have a lot of friendships being built.
Cool.
Um, just a lot of time things that started kind of rolling in my life, and since then I started doing home groups. I'm actually my husband's a great DM,
Mm-hmm.
so a dungeon master for those who don't play. So he actually writes our campaigns, our games, and he runs them, and he's really really good at it. So I'm actually in two home groups with that, and it's it's just amazing. I'm really friends with these people, even people that oh, you're bringing a friend of a friend to our group. Sure, I guess we're going to meet them and play with that, someone we've never met.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, actually friends, and we're talking to each other. I'm telling them, oh, I'm so excited about this stream I'm starting, and they're just, hey, that's amazing, good for you. And we're actually starting to become friends. And
Cool.
so, that's, I think, really related to what we were talking about with video games
Mm-hmm. That
is
social
anything,
connection.
yeah, the social connection. You're meeting people, you're interacting with people. But then there's a lot of other benefits that people don't realize are starting to happen behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever played a tabletop game?
Yes.
What have you played?
Well, I can't even remember it. Well, I mean, okay.
It's been a
So,
while.
see,
Anyway.
okay. So, when I consider tabletop games, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm very, very ignorant of this area of gaming. When you say tabletop, you mean like a board game? Does that include
No.
board games?
I mean, some people will include like board games, but typically we call those board games.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and tabletop gaming. When we're talking about that, we're talking about tabletop RPG. So
Oh.
tabletop role-playing games where you're actually playing a character,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, of course, this actually does apply to board games. What I'm about to say, but for those who have never played, you're rolling dice,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a sheet of what your character looks like as far as what their stats are, what
Mm.
abilities they have, if they have spells, if they what weapons they're using, what materials
Oh.
they're using, items they have, and you're rolling dice, and as you're rolling dice you're having to do a lot of math.
Okay.
And so that's something that it's basic addition and
Mm-hmm.
subtraction. So it's not high levels of uh, trigonometry that we're dealing with here, but
Good.
we are dealing with a lot of math, and
Yeah.
people underestimate the reading, the writing, and the math that are involved that can be really good for younger kids.
Ooh.
Uh, you start to get these elementary to high school kids
Mm-hmm.
who are just doing basic reading and writing. You can apply it for saying, hey, you are to maybe your child.
Okay.
I want you to write your backstory for me. Create a story. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
who your character is. And now there they are, 9, 10 years old, and they're writing their backstory.
Nice.
And so it can have these amazing elements just as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
But then what it also does is you've also got the social skills. You have coping skills. Because I'm telling you right now,
Yeah.
when you are playing Dungeons and Dragons or whatever format you are doing for your tabletop RPG, there are things that are going to happen that you don't want to happen. The players that you're playing with are not going to do what you want them to do.
Uh-huh.
The DM is going to throw things at you you're not going to like. Things
Mm.
are going to happen. A good example is one time I tend to play a lot of archers.
Okay.
And the worst thing that can happen, you can ask pretty much anybody. The worst thing that can happen to an archer is for the enemy to take your bow and then sunder it, which means break it.
Oh, yes.
And now, if you had enchantments on that bow, if you put money into that bow, you're just looking at, wow, I just lost, somewhere around 120,000 gold.
Yikes.
That's you're not happy at that
No,
moment.
I wouldn't be.
Um, so coping skills. That's
Ah,
you
yes.
have you have an NPC, a non-player character,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing something, and you roll poorly, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna convince this guy to let us have this boat. We need this boat.
Mm-hmm.
And you roll a 1, and that is a critical fail. And
Oh,
now you know that the NPC is looking at you going, hell no, you're not
pound
getting this
sand.
boat. Doesn't matter how nicely you spoke to him,
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you're screwed.
Yeah.
Coping skills.
There you
A
go.
lot
Yeah.
of coping skills are built by playing tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, I can
There's
see
also,
why.
and then problem solving goes with that. Once you've been royally screwed,
Mm-hmm.
you now have to figure out, what are you going to do now?
So you gotta get creative.
You got to get creative.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't know what to do with this villain. You don't know how to attack them. You don't know what's going to happen. And so you're trying to problem solve all this stuff. Okay, we have to get over this cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone got a rope? No, nobody has a rope. Okay, so now what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So all these things can start to kind of come up in your game. So this is, as we're talking about with video games, this is like our indirect.
Okay.
So these are sort of those indirect that just by playing these things are happening. You're getting social skills.
Mm-hmm.
You're building your math and reading and writing skills. You are improving your coping and problem solving skills. You're
Yes,
improving your
absolutely.
communication.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are happening. For somebody who is really shy, to have to actually say, well, sorry, but you need to add something. Talk to this NPC.
Mm-hmm.
See what you can work out with them. And you have to go up and be like, hey, hello, my name is whatever your character's name is, and try to talk to them. That's communication.
Yes.
So all of these things are starting to happen without you even realizing it. This is just the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently took a little bit of a dive into a different type, which is we actually have a game that is not the hero. So we are actually playing an evil campaign where our characters are really not evil, but they are the villains. They're the ones trying to destroy the world.
Sure.
That's our whole purpose, is we want to just make the entire world under our control.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of people be interested in this, like, well, I don't want to play the good character because, sometimes the bad, you're the villain. And even exploring stuff like that, and I tell people, they're like, well, oh, you're playing an evil campaign. How do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Thing that I tell them is that if you're doing an evil campaign, you have to play with people you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to set ground rules. So the people that I'm playing with are actually like my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, my cousins. These are people that I'm friends with, that I know them. And beforehand, we set all of our ground rules. We don't mess with woodland creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Children.
Sure,
Nothing bad
sure.
happens to children. We don't just go in through and just murder everything. It always has to be very within limits of what everybody in the group is comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing that, of course we have that weird character that her major thing she does is she throws up spiders at the people we're fighting, and we just all look at her and go, what is wrong with you?
Spiders? Spiders?
Yes, spiders. She throws up spiders. And it's what she does. It's weird. We all look at her and go, why can't you be normal?
Well, I don't know.
So you get that, but then at the same time, I say that as far as the group dynamic we have about
Mm-hmm.
supporting our characters, supporting each other,
Yeah.
I probably have a stronger bond with character on character
Mm-hmm.
in this game than almost any other game I've ever played.
Wow.
So even within the confines of an evil campaign,
Mm-hmm.
You can still have some of these social skills being built.
Mm-hmm.
These communication skills being built, some of these different problem-solving skills being built. We're exploring very dark pasts that are now, we're having to talk with each other in character.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that for people who've never played that sounds so weird that it's your character.
Yeah.
But that's something that when you're talking about tabletop RPGs, it is really important to understand that these are your character. Yes, they all have an element of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible not to do that. But at the same time, your character actually has the ability to grow and form relationships that you didn't even think were going to happen. For
Very in
instance,
depth.
it's interesting. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. You kind of some point let go and you go, wow, my character is really good friends with this other character,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you're just like, well, I'm not. In real life, me and that person barely know each other.
Sure.
But our characters have really they have a very similar backstory. They have good rapport with each other,
Mm-hmm.
and so your character kind of becomes its own entity, its own person.
I've known about D&D for ages, since I was a kid. I mean, it's been around for a very long time. Um, it just been I've always been one of those guys from the outside watching. I mean, I've never really had a chance to experience it yet. I know Stack Up has just recently started doing. It's called DD214. You might have seen it being talked about on Twitter. I'm actually going to try and get into this group because I would love to at least experience it once, so I understand really what it means to what you're experiencing. That would be awesome. I watched them stream it on the Stack Up channel, and you'll see these folks who are really getting into it. I mean, like you said, the voice, the change in the voice, like rah rah rah, acting like
Mm-hmm.
whatever, a troll or something like that. And then the DM, kind of throwing the group a curveball and saying, "Hey, you thought you're doing good, but now you know what's going to hit the fan because your boat sprung a leak or something like that, and everybody's got to quickly troubleshoot. Like, what can they do? Hurry up and roll the dice, and I'm going to use this spell, and all this other really cool stuff. It's like you said, it's being able to troubleshoot. It's being able to socially engage and do all this really cool stuff. Exactly. The stuff that's good for people for their mental health. It's hard to. I mean, when you're in the throes of a really good game, either a video game or a tabletop game, are you? I mean, most people are not thinking about their PTSD or thinking
Mm-hmm.
about their anxiety. Well, maybe they are. It depends on how hard the boss is or something like that. I don't know, but these are great ways to take breaks from whatever that's going on, in your life. We're not trying to say, we're not trying to say, we're forgetting it or avoiding it, but we're taking a break from it, you know? Like, that's just the way it goes. Everybody has something that's going on in their life. And I won't go on this for too long, but like last night, I was playing with two of my buddies online. We were playing Division 2, and we were playing and just we're just playing. We weren't even paying attention to the time because I wanted to go to bed early so I'd be nice and fresh, mentally awake for today and our debut stream. And I looked at the clock. It was like 1:40 in the morning. I'm like, holy crap! I completely lost track of time. I was having so much fun, and I'm like, I need to go to bed. This is crazy. And it reminded me of the old saying, doing something that you enjoy is never a waste of time. And I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
those hours that I was playing with my friends. And I imagine when you're playing there with your friends and you're rolling the dice and you're coming up against a foe, hours do. I mean, what is it like? Do hours just kind of sweep by, or what's it like in that time?
Oh yeah, I mean it's intense.
Yeah.
Depending on what's happening, I actually just had our we call it our good campaign, so we can differentiate between the two. We had our good campaign on Friday, and it was, I mean, we all of a sudden looked at the clock and went, oh my gosh, it's one of our guys has to go, and we kind of didn't want to end, and everyone's going, no, let's keep going, let's keep going. We've played 2 or 3 games in a row. I've gone to conventions and actually played, maybe 16 to 18 hours straight
Whoa!
of
Wow!
Pathfinder. So, I mean, I'm slightly obsessed. But this is something that I think that people just really underestimate. And you mentioned there's two sides of these sorts of games. And the first side you nailed, it's that escapism, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that can be really important for
Yes.
people. I know that, for instance, my father, he actually, I didn't know he used to play Dungeons and Dragons
Mm-hmm.
until I told him about Pathfinder. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" I said, "I'm playing Pathfinder." "Oh, what's that?" And I had to, I was like, Dungeons and Dragons. I go into my spiel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you roll dice, like prepared to have to really explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And instead he goes, "Oh my gosh, when I was younger, I had a barbarian and she was a gnome and she had so much strength she could single-handedly wield a double-handed sword." And now to give you an idea, background, my dad was a jock. He was
Oh,
captain
okay.
of no, he was captain of football, wrestling,
Oh.
baseball. I mean, he was a jock. I actually unfortunately went to the same high school that he had
Mm-hmm.
graduated, and actually ended up working at the same high school he had graduated,
Wow.
for a number of years. And a lot of the teachers I had actually went to school with my dad.
Cool.
Um, or were his coaches and stuff like that. And I would get people coming up to me all the time. "Oh, Steve, he was the big man on campus. He was so cool." And
Mm-hmm.
here my father, and he got, he wound up with me. Both my sisters are also super like cool. They're like, they were in, cheerleading and stuff like that. They were Miss Popular, and I'm over here
Yeah.
like, "I like Dungeons and Dragons." And so I thought my dad would be really disappointed that, his daughter grew up to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved it. He thought that was amazing. And so even the reason I bring that up is because there's no type.
Right.
There's no type of player. Everybody plays. There's people. Oh, this is a great thing. Critical Role. This is so. Hey, shout out to all the critters out there. If you are a critter, you know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, and I'm sporting my Critical Role shirt
Oh,
today.
nice, nice.
Yeah, I've gotten to go to like their live show before, but these are when I went to that convention, when I went to that live show,
Mm-hmm.
there was everybody. There was
Mm-hmm.
representation of everybody. And I got to actually go to one of the panels. And during the panel that I got to watch, which was really awesome,
Mm-hmm.
people were standing up and saying, "Hey, Matt Mercer," or who else was on this, whoever they were addressing, Laura Bailey or Sam Riegel.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing. And just to let you know, like, I was in a really dark place. I was really depressed. And then I
Mm-hmm.
started watching Critical Role, and I never knew about Dungeons and Dragons. And so
Oh,
I actually found a group locally and I started to attend, and it actually helped me with my anxiety, or it helped me with
cool.
my depression.
Very
People
cool.
were saying that they were like to the point of about to give up in life,
Oh.
and being able to suddenly find a community that they could be part of and something they could enjoy
Mm-hmm.
actually changed their lives around. And it was amazing to watch these voice actors, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what they are. They're nerdy voice actors who play Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
um, and they actually are like, "Hey, that's amazing." And just to see that interaction,
Mm-hmm.
I started to realize how big this is. This goes beyond what it used to be back in the day. Now it's for everybody. Everybody can play. And
Yeah.
then I started really looking at like that mental health side of things. People are talking about that mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And for me in my personal life, I had always used it very much as an escape, to escape my
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yep.
But then I started kind of realizing some other things. I've had PTSD. I've
Mm-hmm.
had trauma in my past.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been situations that in Dungeons and Dragons, it has come up that can be very triggering.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
wow, this is a situation that kind of hits a little closer to home that I'd really like it to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the other side of Dungeons and Dragons, is it doesn't just go into escaping, it
Mm-hmm.
actually can go into therapy. And so
Ah.
that is kind
Mm-hmm.
of the next thing we're going to talk about, is not just these indirect aspects of playing
Yes.
tabletop RPGs, but there's actually very direct things you can do in a therapeutic setting.
Absolutely.
Um, and so if you have a response, then go ahead. If not, I'll jump into it.
No, yeah, absolutely.
I'm really excited.
I do. You know, it's becoming. You know, there's a lot of new research right now that's going on as far as how therapists. You know, and I use therapists, and I mean, you know, social workers, psychologists, anybody who's working in that field. How they are starting to use video games with the younger clients to help build that rapport and help enhance that rapport, and quickly turn it around, because sometimes when they're working with the younger children or the younger or with youth, it's a little bit harder to build that trust, because here you have an older stranger, and you're expected to spill your guts to them as far as everything that's going on. So it's a little bit hard. So what they'll do is they will literally sit down with the client, the youth, and fire up a video game. And they would just play a video game and just sit there side by side. Sometimes one player, sometimes two players, multiplayer, and the therapist will watch what that client is doing and says, "Hey, I noticed that you made that decision. How come you did that?" And so the client will start talking about it, and before you know it, it starts to interlace with, hey, what's going on at home, or what's going on at school, and because you're gaming together, sometimes, for some people, once you start on that level, the whole the barriers start to drop. The as far as feeling on guard, or having to be all tensed up, because you're engaging with the game, and so you, by proxy, you're engaging with the therapist who's asking you a couple of questions about the game. But before you know it, like I said, you're talking about what's going on at school, or what issues you're facing. And so the rapport just gets enhanced, and it gets built up a lot quicker. So, so what were you going to say about that?
Oh yeah, so I mean that's something. Then this is one of those things that I hope that in the future we can actually devote an entire stream on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, finding the rapport that you can build with somebody is amazing. But what's, I think, really interesting about specifically the use of tabletop RPGs is that sometimes the people that they're bringing in and for therapy with this have never even heard of it. They've never seen it. They know nothing about it, or they've only seen negative representations. But some of the research right now that's coming around, it talks about use with clients who have ADD or ADHD, at-risk youth, people on the spectrum, people with anxiety, with things, people that are processing different events in their life. Like I was saying with my own PTSD, having those things, and okay, well, I wasn't maybe strong enough to handle that situation, but my character is. My character is way more charismatic than me. My character is way stronger than me. And then having my character then succeed in a task that maybe I feel myself I wouldn't have been able to do.
Okay.
And then being able to look back on that and say, well, wait a minute, your character is a reflection of you. You came up with that character.
Yes.
You're the one who had to problem solve that situation. No, you didn't actually yield the sword and the shield, but you actually are the one who did solve that situation. And this is some of the stuff that we can see in therapy.
Yes.
We're seeing social skills being built, especially with like at-risk youth. We have at-risk youth who maybe have not had a lot of socialization. We have maybe kids who are on the spectrum who also have issues with social skills. And you can bring these kids into a group together. And I say kids, and I'm younger adult. I mean, this can be done with adults. I'm just
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of the studies are being done with more youth-ranged individuals, but this can apply to older people as well.
Yes.
But you get them in a setting, and you get to them starting to interact positive life choices. Well, would you, an at-risk youth, would you just steal that, or would you try to talk to the person about it?
Yes.
Somebody who's maybe struggling with social skills, and they're struggling with how to just empathize, learning empathy. Oh, wow, that person, we're helping somebody, this NPC in the game we're playing, their brother died. Oh, how do you feel about that? Is that something, that you can, and building empathy of let's talk to that person and see what they're experiencing right now. And so bringing that into a therapeutic world, and then again, we're still doing all those things like the coping skills, the problem solving skills. We're still having all of those things like the math and the writing all being brought up as well, but those can all be so beneficial in a very direct way, and you can call it out. You can, if you're doing they actually run therapeutic, where they'll have maybe a DM as well as somebody who's maybe more mentally health trained, and or just somebody who's mentally health trained who is just trying to run the group. But I've heard from people that I've talked to that it's usually better to have two adults involved, especially when you're dealing with kids.
Sure. I can see why.
just like in most group therapy,
Yeah.
you know, it's always good to have two people that can help navigate certain things
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to call that out and say, hey, you know, what are you experiencing right now? And then what's also great is this can be taken out into the community. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times this isn't the character, this isn't the person, this is their character. So you can play in different settings and not is have a little bit more flexibility with like HIPAA,
Sure.
because you're not talking about anything, you're just letting them experience the game.
Right.
And
Right.
through experiencing the game, they're able to build up all these skills naturally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just happening. You don't even have to force it, it's just there. And again, you know, I've looked at that in my own life of how it's helped me with my anxiety, something that's helped me with, you know, um times that I've been dealing with maybe a little bit of depression, and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there's somebody who cares.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big thing, is if you have a group that's relying on you and you're their tank,
Mm-hmm.
um it's just like if you're in World of Warcraft or something like that, where you
Right.
know you have a group that they kind of want you there. If you're not there, I remember one boss in World of Warcraft,
Mm-hmm.
Burl's Lair, and that
Oh yeah.
involved a
Oh
mage
yeah.
tank. I
Mm-hmm.
was that mage tank, and you better believe that if I was having an off night and I didn't want to be there,
Mm-hmm.
too bad. If I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't there, the raid just didn't run.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're sitting there trying to deal with some of these different emotions, and maybe you are in a very bad place of depression, just to know that there is a group that's counting on you, a
Right.
group of people that want you there. These are
Right.
people that think that you are important to them.
Right.
So that's, yeah, that's what's happening in the therapeutic world with tabletop gaming.
Yeah, and it's very exciting because it's just getting, in some areas it's just getting off the ground, and that's what I'm really, really, I'm so excited about these next 2 months, PAX East, and this
Yeah.
next conference, because at the AAS conference, this is cool. The VA has asked me to present for the VA and their group, and talking about Stack Up, talking about the STOP program, talking about video games, talking about gaming and how it's helping out the veteran population, answering the questions that they're trying to solve. And I'm also getting this opportunity to talk about how the VA should really start paying attention to some of this type of stuff, because
Mm-hmm.
I work in you, myself, and a bunch of other professionals that we're networked with. They're all cheerleading, saying, "Hey, take a look at this. This stuff has merit. This stuff is going to be able to get people to overcome that social anxiety, and it's going to allow them to become connected with one another. And just because a person is not sitting in an office and talking in front of a therapist, doesn't mean there's not going to be a therapeutic value if they try
Mm-hmm.
out this board game, or if they try out this tabletop game or this video game. It's the non-conventional ways of us getting the help out there to these folks. And to me, that's exactly what it all comes down to. If
Absolutely.
if we cannot bring them into the office, let's find a different way to do it. And that's what like the LAN events were. It was the
Mm-hmm.
non-traditional way of getting people plugged in. And video games,
Absolutely.
yeah, I can see the excitement, the passion behind your voice when you're talking about D&D, out there, and how it helped you grow as a person, and with your friendships and your bonds. And I've had the same experience with video games. Hell, there were times when video games were so powerful that I just started crying because it
Mm-hmm.
was so well put together. And there was those type of video games where you had a follower. I'll give you an example. Skyrim. In Skyrim, you can have a follower with you, and I developed such like
Mm-hmm.
a connection with that person, even though, yeah, of course it wasn't real. Of course, it was kind of they said the same things over and over again. But literally, if my follower were to get killed by accident, or just killed in period, I would roll back to my old save file just so that he wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
die, and so I can still run around with them. If I didn't care about the person, I would have just kept going. But obviously, there was some kind of a connection where it was worth losing maybe an hour's worth of work or playing the game just so that I can have them come back again. And I know you and I aren't the only people. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this right now have that kind of story where a game helped them overcome an obstacle, or it helped them learn a little bit more insight about them as a person. And it's just, again, this is what we're building on. And here's, I see the roadblocks. I can see the very traditional therapists, the very traditional social workers and psychologists saying, this is just insane. This is crazy. I can't believe you would try to, merge the two together. But, it kind of reminds me of a story. I'm going to give you guys and gals a quick history lesson. Back when psychology was first emerging and psychoanalytic was the only way to help people out with their mental health stuff going on. At the same time, psychiatry was part of the same community. And for the longest time, in order for someone to be a psychologist or psychiatrist, psychiatrists, the people generally are the ones that are giving out medication. They had to undergo psychoanalytic and being psychoanalyzed. Okay, so they had to experience what psychoanalytic theory is before they can become one themselves. And because the Freudian psychoanalytic stopped evolving and they stopped bringing in new information and new approaches and new data, there became a schism where the psychiatrists are saying, you guys are using the same old methods over and over and over again, and we've got new data to prove that there's other and better ways to help that person out. The psychiatrist side, they evolved. They continued to take in new information and build on it, while the psychologists using psychoanalytic theory stopped. And so they broke away. And that's why you have the APA and it's separated from the psychiatry group, because they're like, we're bye-bye. If you can't evolve and you can't take in this new information and build from it, we're going to go do our own thing. And I kind of see you, myself, these other professionals who are trying to use and gain the attention of the rest of the mental health community, say, hey, this is very much a thing. This is worth time. This is worth attention, and the effort that we're putting into it. So like, what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. And going through my internship for my master's degree, I pretty much went to work dressed like this.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was the only one. Everybody else was wearing little pantsuits, and I just never. I cannot pull off a pencil skirt. It was just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put me in heels. It's not going to be a pretty picture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go in T-shirts that were Star Wars,
yep,
or something Disney, Harry Potter, and I worked with at-risk youth, and
mm-hmm,
a lot of, and I was really blessed to have a supervisor that was fine with that. She's like,
cool.
what? If it works for your clients, it works. Fine. This is your time to learn your methods.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of my coworkers were very skeptical about it. Like, that's really what you wore today? You're not really being professional.
Oh, and yes. I can't stand that.
Yeah. And then trying to break from that. And one of the reasons I'm going the direction I did is just because I didn't love the way that a lot of the offices that I was going to look into being part of, I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't something I was comfortable with. And I think that when I started to, I could give so many shout outs to people that got me introduced to more of like, hey, no, to use geek therapy is okay, to use all this geeky stuff, to use Dungeons and Dragons, to use video games, to use superheroes. All of these people started kind of feeding into my life over the last few years. And I am so grateful for them, because I don't think that I would have been doing this if it wasn't for them, because
right,
I probably would have just been like, fine, I guess I'll conform. But I think that you got that right. If we conform, if we're always conforming, we're not growing. And
right,
even if it's not something that what we do takes over, because there's
Mm-hmm.
still definitely validity in some of the other
Oh,
ways.
absolutely.
There's people that just aren't gonna to jive with what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, we need to be able to be accessible to those who those methods don't work for. And this is something that I've seen a lot
Mm-hmm.
in um, with my tabletop gaming, going to conventions, being part of society,
Yeah.
getting to know people. I have seen, and I'm obviously gonna, for anonymity, I'm not gonna mention names or
Mm-hmm.
details about these people, but I've watched people working out their own sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've watched people working out their gender identity.
Sure.
I've watched people working out, these different things, like the things we've already talked about with anxiety and depression and
Mm-hmm.
social skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to them because they find out, oh, you're a psychology major, or you're going into counseling.
Mm-hmm.
They people always want to talk to you about that stuff. It's really
Sure.
amazing.
Sure.
And they'll talk to me, and I'll say, well, why aren't you seeing somebody? And they go, people don't understand me. Well, no, there's a lot of people out there that deal with gender identity or sexual orientation or
Mm-hmm.
depression. They go, no, they don't understand me. If they ask me what I'm into and I say I play Pathfinder, they have no clue what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just so important. Representation matters.
Yes.
And to have someone who's like them, that is doing this, who has the same interests, who can talk about nerdy stuff. I've had clients that we've had an entire therapy session devoted around the movie Tangled from Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the session, we're playing the music, and there's tears going. This is where my life begins, and
Mm-hmm.
those things happen. And I think that those things can happen with even introducing these other mediums, like
Sure.
video games, tabletop, and what like impacts you. Does this particular game really speak to your life? Is it something important to you?
Mm-hmm.
I think that as mental health professionals, you can really gain so much
Yes.
by knowing what a client is interested in.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can use that.
Mm-hmm. And
And that's what we're doing.
and like in my office, I had it was Star Trek. I'm a big Trekkie fan, and so I was actually using that as a way to reach to my clients because, interestingly enough, and I'm not sure if you knew this or the rest of the folks watching, Gene Roddenberry was a Korean War veteran. He was
Did not know that.
yes, and he was a pilot and a fighter pilot, and you cannot refute that his experiences of being in a war help influence his ideas and thoughts of what the perfect Earth would be like, the United Federation of Planets, where all of our needs are being met so that we have the capability to not worry about our next meal or energy, but advancing science or advancing a theory or what have you. This geek culture, and this is, I think that's what we can say. The geek culture is like the next level, and it's like the all-encompassing of the therapeutic model of how it can all just be used and utilized for therapy or for mental health relief.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and hold on. Star Trek helped me get through some depressive years. I wanted to be Jadzia Dax. Jadzia Dax was awesome. Oh my gosh.
I love that.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. There's so much value, and then every once in a while, Star Trek will do something different. Well, they will try to address an issue. I remember in Deep Space, no, it was Star Trek Voyager. Ensign Kim, Perry, and I believe B'Elanna, they all did an away mission, and they had a really traumatizing situation that happened to them. And
Didn't they always?
yeah, but and this one particularly, I guess it was even worse. I guess they had it started to display some of the symptoms of PTSD. Of course, it was a little bit more overdone because it's for the TV and stuff like that. But you can clearly see that these people were having flashbacks. They had they were being isolated, mood swings and stuff like that. And so it was really cool. So I would use Star Trek as a way to reach to my clients. Saying, hey, here's a man who went to war, and he saw the worst you can say the world has to offer. War is the worst, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't crush his creativity or the potential of mankind. It sparked him to think that we can do so much more, and
Mm-hmm.
so I thought that was really cool. So it again, kind of going back before we run out of time, I think it's really important that this type of stuff gets fully explored, and that's why for today's stream and for the next few streams that are going to be coming up, we're going to keep talking about the geek culture, the gaming culture, and mental health. In fact, before I forget, we're going to be having guest speakers coming on. Dr. Bean, and he's going to be coming on and talking about a recent book that he put together. It's a wonderful book. It has to do with Zelda. It has to do with Zelda and mental health. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought? And so we're going to have him come on in a stream, and he's going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it, and he wants to do a giveaway. He wants to do a giveaway so that you folks who are watching can read it. Yes, awesome stuff.
Love giveaways.
Yeah, and so
Thanks.
free stuff is always great. So we're going to keep talking about this because this is something we cannot do in just one run. And so we're going to keep talking about it. And I'm going to try and shoot some video at PAX. And I think we're going to keep going with this and talking about this because there's just so much material out there. Hannah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's something I would love for us to get more feedback from the community about stuff that they would like to hear us talk about.
Absolutely.
Because I think that there's so much out there. I mean, today we're obviously talking about gaming and stuff like that. I would love to see us in the future, if everyone's interested, maybe show what a therapeutic D&D would be like. Show what tabletop RPGs really are and the way that they can be used in more of a hands-on approach.
Yes.
Maybe getting somebody on. I have DM'd before. I just recently DM'd my very first game.
Cool.
I got to DM my own kidnapping in our
What?
story, which was kind of yeah. Well, we were trying to figure out a way for my husband to get to play because he never gets to play. And the decision was, okay, well, I was going to try to run a game, and so what was my character going to do if I'm running the game? And so, well, of course, she had to get kidnapped. And so I actually ran my own kidnapping, and it was awesome. But I would love to see maybe somebody who knows a little bit more than me, come on, maybe shows kind of what it's all about and get more details. I would love to see us talk about the way things like Star Wars, Star Trek. Interesting thing is, my essay to get into my doctorate program was about my connection with Indiana Jones.
Ooh.
I was obsessed with Indiana Jones. My nickname was actually Indiana Hannah growing up because I was like I was really obsessed.
It sounds like it.
It was a little scary. If I could meet, one celebrity and actually fangirl out, it would probably be Harrison Ford because he's Indiana Jones and Han Solo.
True.
And I'm sorry, but that's the most amazing thing ever. And
Oh,
so
Doctor
Indiana
Who.
Jones, yeah, I saw that Doctor Who. Yeah, I love Doctor Who. That's something that we can explore. But yeah, so Indiana Jones. When I was writing my essay, I talked about how, I didn't think I could go to college. I didn't think I was smart enough. And, I started going to school and realizing what I was doing. And when I decided to go into a doctorate, it's because I always wanted to be Dr. Jones. I always wanted to have
there we go.
He was smart. He wasn't just the archaeologist, and people always forget that. He wasn't just the superhero who was, fighting Nazis and doing all this amazing stuff. He was also a professor.
Right.
He was Dr. Jones.
He was a brain, but he was also a badass.
Yeah, and so I really idolized that. And so going into my doctorate, that was kind of my big thing, was saying, in my whole essay. And so, yeah, that essay is actually what got me into my doctorate program currently, was talking about Indiana Jones. So I think there's so much that can be explored with this area. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see, where this kind of takes off as far as what our next. So, yeah, but that's my point. I'd love to hear other stories from people who want to maybe check out our Facebook page.
Yeah, let me give you the link. Let me throw the link in right now in chat.
Let's get our link up for our Facebook.
Go ahead and keep talking while I'm throwing
Oh
it in.
yeah, and then well, I'm gonna be giving you a lot more links to probably have to throw up too. Also my personal I have a Facebook page and a website as well for my business, Serene Life Consulting. You can always email me on there, with ideas of what you would like to see us do as well. Um, we're kind of all over the place. It's not hard to find us and get a hold of us.
Right.
But yeah, I just would love to see what other people would say that they would like to see us do.
Yep. And that's the way this works, folks. The more feedback we get, the better we can tailor material for you. And there's plenty of it out there. You know, I mean, all it took me was like maybe 20 minutes, and I found a tremendous amount of stuff for just today's topic. So just give us the suggestions. We will be happy to fill in those requests. And here we
So
go.
segueing from that, I wanted to kind
Thank
of
you
give
for
a little
liking
bit of
that.
shout out. Yes, you're awesome. Thank you. That's what we need. We need people to like our stuff, share our stuff, support our stuff, get us out there, get more viewers.
Yes.
But I wanted to give a few shout outs just of because going with the art, since this is actually our topic, is we could do so many other things. Since it's our actual topic, I would like to give some shout outs to some of the people who have really been pioneers
Mm-hmm.
in getting us the research that we have and some of the different tools we are using right now for therapeutic uh, tabletop role playing game. So the first one is Game to Grow. They are actually have a Kickstarter right now. It's called Critical Core. So you can check that out, support it. It has been supported by a lot of people. A lot of people are talking about this. Its major focus is kind of on to help people that are on the spectrum, especially children. So it is actually usable for children 9 and plus. And it is a really amazing, I've looked at it, it's a really interesting system that just
Mm-hmm.
takes the tabletop gaming and makes it easy to understand and to play and to implement with people who are younger, people who are on the spectrum.
Cool.
And they actually do. They're located in Seattle. I wish I was located in Seattle right now.
Woohoo,
I'd love
Seattle.
to. I'd love to help this out, but they're running like the groups with like 40 different kids. They
Mm-hmm.
have in different therapeutic settings that they're working with,
Mm-hmm.
and they've only been established since 2017, and they already have 40 kids
Wow.
involved in groups for therapeutic tabletop gaming. So
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing. And they also, if you're in that area, they also offer training. A lot of the people that I'm going to be talking about, they're very volunteer based. They really need volunteers who are interested in running games, spreading the word, donating, anything you can do. So yeah, so the first one, Game to Grow, great people, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Critical Core, check out their Kickstarter. It's awesome.
Very nice.
Second, we have RPG Research. They are in Spokane, so the other side of Washington. But seriously, everything's in Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
So yeah, if you want to get involved, lived in Washington, and you'll be set.
Mm-hmm.
They actually. This is a group. These guys are cool. These guys all started out with. They used to play D&D like they told me back in the 70s. So they've been playing D&D, and then they started getting older, and they got degrees and said, hey, what can we do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something here? So they started doing research on the benefits of role-playing games in mental health.
Mm-hmm.
They actually do a lot of outreaches. They have a thing called the RPG Bus. And to give you an idea, last year, during just only these months of September and October, for 26 days, they actually traveled around this bus to 8 different states.
Cool.
And they brought D&D into the community, therapeutic means into the community, and they're all about inclusivity. So everything they do, make sure that they have ramps so that they can bring people in who have all types of abilities.
Mm-hmm.
They work with they go into senior treatment centers, into substance abuse treatment centers. They go into they work with a lot of special needs schools and organizations. They're all about outreach.
Mm-hmm.
And so there should be a link. All of these will have links to um, Game to Critical Core Kickstarter, RPG Research, as well as the RPG Bus. If any of these things look like things you want to check out, but yeah, they're international. They actually go and do outreaches internationally
Mm-hmm.
to bring awareness of the therapeutic benefits of tabletop games. So gotta love that.
And so
Um,
we're
yeah.
gonna throw these links on the Psy Facebook page, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm
All
gonna
right,
be
good,
putting all this stuff up
good.
on the Facebook page. Everything is gonna be linked. Everything is gonna have like a little blurb about what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a few days to get that
Sure,
together,
sure.
but yeah, then we're all of these people. I want to make sure that we have their information out there of how to get involved,
Cool.
um, because they're just some amazing programs.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, Take This. Take This is also located in the Seattle area. Seriously, need to move to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around since 2012, and their whole goal is to decrease the stigma of mental health while increasing the support. So they kind of work within some of those things I was talking about before of when you're part of a group that everybody wants you to be there, you have a support system that you know that it matters that you are there.
Mm-hmm.
You know that it matters that you are part of this group and that you show up for that event.
Mm-hmm.
It gets people with who are having issues with depression, who are having issues with thoughts of suicide,
Mm-hmm.
to have that support of places they go. But they also do a great thing. They offer support for everybody. If you're a creator, whether you are in any types of game, any gaming community,
Mm-hmm.
as a creator, as a player, they have a support that they're trying to have. So it's so their name, Take This, for those who played Zelda. It's that whole idea of it's dangerous to go alone.
Mm-hmm.
Take this. So that's what they are. They are the sword that you can take
Yes,
when you need to travel alone because it's dangerous. And
I
so
have
they
one.
do. Yeah. So okay. So yeah. So they're
Yeah, my friend gave me one.
Wormwood.
Yes,
Wormwood. They're
yes.
partnered with them, which anybody who knows Critical Role, all you critters out there, know all about Wormwood. Uh, so this is a little connection here of why they are so awesome. Wormwood actually has a collaboration with them. They're really cute. I wish I would have got a picture of it. I didn't. I didn't think of it. But it's this really cute little shield that's made of wood,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a shield with a little sword on it, and it's called Box of Hope.
Yep.
Again, another link we'll have available for you to check out. That's just to support what they do. So Box of Hope through
Mm-hmm.
Wormwood, supporting Take This, and just making sure that everybody has a support out there for in the gaming community.
Yeah,
And then
and it's really cool. My buddy D,
oh, so cool.
he got me one a couple of years ago, and I still have, of course, and I still carry it with me. It's kind of like a little talisman that I keep, and I just it's cool. Yeah, I mean I love it.
Oh yeah, I they're like super back ordered right now in Wormwood right now. If
Really,
you go to order something,
I'm
they
lucky
have
then.
a little disclaimer that everything is like weeks out
Oh,
to get. So just heads up, be patient.
mm-hmm.
But this is something that may be good for somebody if you know that they are having a hard time
Mm-hmm.
to give them that. There you have the chance of getting like a special one. It's just like video games, you have that legendary option. Um, so, but yeah, and Wormwood is also amazing. Wormwood is really, it partners a lot with Critical Role. They
Mm-hmm.
have made some amazing products for them. So Wormwood is definitely if you're interested in that kind of stuff, a great place to look. And then the last one, because I want to make sure these guys get their shout out too. And I really hope I say the name right, but it's the Badana Group, Badana. And they're located in Pennsylvania, and they have been around since 2009. So they're our East Coast representative that I've been able to get a hold of. The last week I've been doing a lot of work trying to call these people up, or emailing or texting,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to talk to them. And they are out there doing so much therapeutic work as well with D&D and all sorts of games. They're
Cool.
all just like some of our ones we talked about. They're all about outreach. So they go to hospitals, they go to retirement centers, they go to schools, and they bring tabletop gaming and other gaming into those settings
Mm-hmm.
for therapeutic means.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually, I am this is going to come with a disclaimer, but for anybody out there with mental health training, and if you have done mental health training and you are interested in Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop gaming, they actually have a publication that they put out. They recommend $10, but is pay what you want, so you can pay more. Or if you just can't afford it, you know, you can pay less, but we're pay more, because it's a great publication. It's called Wizards, Warriors, and Wellness. And it is a little publication that just talks about the benefits of a lot of stuff we've talked about today, but more in depth of specifically how it can be used in D&D. And this is not a guide for just anybody who doesn't have mental health training to use. This is really meant for people with mental health training, because you are using therapeutic, you know, ideas that those who have been trained are going to be able to implement a little bit easier with just the knowledge and the education they have. But it is something I talked to one of the gentlemen there. I don't know if I had permission to say his name, so I'm not going to. But I talked to a gentleman there about, you know, well, how would this work? Like, if I wanted to do this with, like, my husband, since my husband's a DM, and I've got the mental health, you know, training, he's like, oh, yeah, that's literally the perfect way to do it. So if you have never run D&D, but you know people who have, who would maybe be interested in doing this, and you work in the mental health field, maybe check out that publication. It's kind of cool. I have it. That's going to be also linked, and it's going to be through Drive-Thru RPG.
Cool.
Again, recommended $10, but pay more if you can. Pay less if you can. But yeah.
Cool.
There. So that's my fourth one. I want to make sure all those people go out there because they're the ones who contributed. I didn't come up with this research. This is not me. I'm able to give personal experience, but in the end, it were these people that really shared their experiences, their information, and showed me exactly how big tabletop gaming can be in the community and what it can really do for us.
Absolutely. And in the last 9 minutes that we have before we need to wrap things up, I want to thank everybody who had stayed tuned, who've been watching us. I know 2 hours is a long time. You know, there you go. The hearts. 2 hours is a long time, and whether you've only been able to hang out with us for 10 minutes or you were here for the whole thing, I want to personally say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. Hopefully you were able to benefit from this. Again, we are going to be using or being on this topic for quite some time. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and this stream is going to be uploaded to YouTube. It's also going to be on, we're going to have it on our side page on Facebook. We're going to put all the relevant
my
links.
Page.
Yep, her page.
It's going to be on my personal page as well with all the links.
Yeah, and we're going to put down all of the relevant links that that we've talked about today. And so that if you wanted to go back there for future reference, it'll be there. Thank you. I was happy to hear that you consider that a great talk. And what's up, Nightmare? And John's, it was very educational. Thank you very much. That's what we aim to do. We want to, again, the whole goal of the side streams is to take down the stigmas of mental health and talk about it. And this is just one small way of us doing that. And again, we appreciate that. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight.
We're making it fun. That's also a thing. And that's the thing I want to make sure that people on here understand. Sorry, I know I'm taking up our time. But is that this is not just for mental health professionals. This is not just for people who have a background in mental health, although they can definitely benefit from it. But this is for people who specifically do not have that background. It's all about education. It's all about advocacy. And it's all about breaking stigmas and proper representation, because we see it all the time. Poor representation of mental health, of therapy in general, of all of it. So we want to make sure to get that information not only accurately out, but in entertaining, fun ways, easy to understand, and to get to other people who again, they don't have this education. Because let's face it, not everyone has a master's degree in counseling or psychology.
Right.
And these are all things that we can all use on an everyday basis. So.
Absolutely. And so just to kind of highlight what we talked about today, the general theme was games. and mental health. And we dived into video games. We talked about the direct benefits of it, such as playing Tetris for someone who has traumatic brain injury, or playing Tetris to help reduce the symptoms of PTSD. We also talked about the indirect benefits of video games. We talked about how a game like Fortnite was able to get these kids socially connected with others and help prevent bullying. We also talked about the LAN events that I've been working on for the last several years, and the benefits and the positive impact that it had with the veteran community and how it's being expanded upon. And of course, Hannah, go ahead and highlight what you talked about.
We talked about what D&D is, what tabletop gaming is, what is out there for the community, the indirect benefits with the social skills, math skills, writing skills, as well as all the direct benefits that can have with with actual therapy, for those who have depression, anxiety, maybe those who are considering suicide or who have had traumas in their past, or those who have different issues that they're trying to work out.
Yes.
And then we talked about some of the great contributors
Yep.
in this field, as well as got totally off topic with how amazing just the geek culture is and
Yes.
can be for what we experience every day.
Absolutely. So that was it for today, folks. We will. So we're going to do our next run when I come back from PAX East. I'm so excited about it. I need to get packing.
I wish I was going.
Oh, it's going to be so cool. So we stay tuned. There'll be information as far as the next run on our Facebook page. It'll be on Twitter. And I really appreciate every one of you for taking the time out and hanging out with us. Shoot us a DM on the Facebook page if you got some ideas that you would like to see. We will roll with it. Any kind of ideas I would greatly appreciate. And that's all we have. So again, my name is Matt Frago Bergendahl. That's all I've got for today. And I'll see you later. Hannah, you want to say your goodbye?
I'm Hannah Siller. It's nice to see everybody, and I look forward to doing a lot more of this in the future.
Heck yeah.
Let us know what you want us to do.
Yeah, this was fun. So we'll talk to you folks later, and hopefully you have a great rest of your Sunday. See you later.